Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at not just one, not two, but three tier lists. We're going to be taking a look at a results-based tier list, a representation in the top 64 tier list, and an influential player tier list. This one not really a tier list, more of just a list. And I do have to add that all of this was made by SCHU Stats, and he didn't just make the three lists that we're going to be taking a look at. He made a grand total of 10 lists, all of them with explanation, all of them with different results and different factors, and just a bunch of work was put into this. So there will be links down below. I highly recommend that you check it out because we're not going to be highlighting everything in today's video, but let's start it off by talking. Also, I just forgot to mention this at the start of the video, and even though I did bring it up later, I wanted to get it out of the way. These results aren't just from 2023. They're going to be all the way back to December of 2021, so thought I should mention that. So starting off with the top 64 representation tier list, this one fairly self-explanatory. The percentage is just the percentage of these characters within the top 64. And if you're looking at this D tier to C plus tier, the biggest outlier is definitely me, bro. I mean, this character is arguably top 20 in the game right now, has a lot of very insane stuff going for him, but not very represented at the top level. And it does make sense because he is a me character. That's not everyone's first choice. You look at the D tier as well, you have both the other me's there. Me Swordfighter makes a lot more sense because that character is bad, but me Gutter, a decent character, at least you'd expect him to be somewhere maybe in that C plus tier, maybe even B minus tier. And that Brawler, I would definitely expect just based off a tier list him to be in that A plus tier, maybe even that S minus tier, but clearly not super represented at the top level. Hopefully that will change. I also think it's very interesting that Donkey Kong and Zelda are above characters like Corrin, Terry especially. That's a big outlier for me. Obviously, we kind of just are seeing how good Corrin is, especially after Smash. I feel like a lot of people are kind of like on that Corrin hype train now. And then Link is a character as well that I have a lot of faith in, but obviously a lot of people don't share that faith with me. He is still getting a little bit of representation in the top 64, but it's not as much as a character like Donkey Kong, like Zelda, and I think that really shows that in theory, tournament characters with crazy advantage states, the best grab of the game, can absolutely condition people and exploit people in tournament, aren't going to be doing as well as characters that are incredibly inconsistent like Chrom, characters that require a lot of tech skill like Link. Terry being this low, I honestly have no excuse for because that character is absolutely broken. I feel like people are just kind of shifting to the other FGC characters because why play Terry when Kazi exists, but Terry is ridiculously good. It's also kind of weird to see characters like Sora and Sheik in the same tier as Donkey Kong, but as I already mentioned, the higher tech skill characters, there's just going to be less of them appearing in the top 64. Maybe those players are going to go deeper in the bracket, like Kameme, for example. A lot of his finishes are going to be somewhere within that top 16 area, but if it's just him and a couple other players doing it, he's obviously not going to have super high representation at the top 64. That applies to Sora, that applies to Sheik. I think that applies to Zero Suit and Pikachu as well. Zero Suit, maybe not as much. Maybe you'd expect her to be somewhere around these, but Pikachu, I still think, is a top 5 character in this game. I still have a lot of faith, and we are getting good results from Pikachu players, so hopefully that number will go up. I think the biggest surprise, though, honestly, of the entire tier list is Kazuya only going to be at a 1.29. I would expect this character to have way more representation at the top line. I mean, the amount of complaining that people do, and don't get me wrong, that complaining is definitely justified, but the fact that Greninja, Inkling, and Shulk are all more popular characters in the top 64 of tournaments is pretty absurd to me. I just think you'd have more Kazuya players out there getting further in the bracket, but clearly the counterplay against this character, which is fairly one-dimensional. I mean, if you figure out how to beat Kazuya in neutral, you pretty much figure out how to beat him, because once he gets you in the combo, you're kind of dead no matter what counterplay you have. So people are just getting way better at fighting Kazuya, and clearly the results are showing that. Another character I was surprised would be so low is Game & Watch. I think very highly of Game & Watch. I feel like a lot of people do now because this character is absolutely broken, so I could see that going up. Bayonetta, a character that's had an absolute renaissance as late. Every single major region in the world right now has a top Bayonetta player, and I only think they're going to get more and more because this character is very, very good. In the S- tier, I think the only character I was a little surprised to see this high would be Sephiroth, just considering that he is a fairly high maintenance character, as well as definitely not being as good as the characters around him. But to be fair, he is still a good character. It's just surprising because you look at the other characters in this minus, you got Cloud, you got Min Min, you got Young Link. Very easy characters. The easier characters are obviously going to be the ones that are more represented. So Sephiroth, huge shout out to y'all. You're doing great work this character because I think he is extremely difficult. Speaking of difficult characters at the top level, you have Sonic here as well. Now, I initially thought Sonic would be higher, but it does make sense that he isn't because it is a very, very grueling playstyle to play all the time in brackets, so it makes a lot of sense why people aren't playing. You have the characters that I feel like are underrepresented at the top level, like Pokemon Trainer and Joker, because I can't think of any reps that are getting like always top 8 at their events. But to be fair, for Pokemon Trainer, you got Noe and Quid. For Joker, you got Tsubaki and NK Leo. They obviously still do do have the reps, but it just doesn't feel as prevalent as they used to be, which is probably why the reason. In the S tier as well, having Falcon and S also feels fairly strange. Now, they're good characters, don't get me wrong, and they're very popular characters, but if you look at the characters right next to them, I mean, you got Joker, Samus, Fox, Sonic, you would definitely expect these characters to be somewhere within this A+ tier or this A- tier if you're just looking at a regular tier list, but of course, this is no regular tier list. Samus being this high makes a lot of sense. Very accessible character as well as being very broken. I personally have her in my top 15. I think she is absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, everyone else in this S tier just makes a lot of sense. Very popular characters that have a lot of success. Roy, even though he has been struggling as of late, is still going to have a lot of reps under as well. And finally, you're going to have the S+ tier, and all 4 characters in here make the most sense. I think the only character that I could have seen maybe being fitted for one of those characters would be Samus, because again, I just think very highly of Samus. But Palu, that's kind of the whole thing about this character, is she will consistently get you into the top 64, but she won't be getting you into the top 8. That was the main argument for Incineroar versus Palutena. And to be fair, Palutena, a character that is a lot more represented in the top 8 level, but also there's one Incineroar player that can top 8, whereas there are multiple Palutena players, so that matter doesn't really make any sense to bring up in an argument. But regardless, Palutena, highly represented character at the top 64. It makes a lot of sense to me. And then our top 3 are the top 3 that I would expect. In Steve, Snake, Rob, these characters are represented in every single major region, and there is a lot of them in every single major region, pretty much, except like maybe Europe being the exception for Snakes, but there are a couple very good Snakes in Europe as well. And overall, these characters are just absolutely broken. It's a little bit surprising to not see Steve at number 1, because that character is obviously number 1 in the game, but he's getting trumped by Snake by 0.2 points and actually getting owned by Rob by a handful of points there. So Rob being the most popular character at the top 64 isn't super shocking to me. I would have expected it to be Steve, but if I had to take a second stab at it, it would definitely be Rob. Moving on to the results-based tier list, and as you can see, the methodology is right here. The highest placement of the character is going to count as 5%. Second highest placement is going to count as 10%. Third highest, 15%. As you see, it goes down the list here. And this is also from 2021 all the way back to December, so it's pretty much going to be in the post-quarantine era, not just in the 2023 ranking season. If you look in the D tier to C+ tier, the biggest outliers to me are definitely going to be Link in the C- tier and Mii Brawler in the C+ tier. Mii Brawler, we already kind of talked about it, just a very underrepresented character at the top level, so you're not going to be having any super far placements. Link, though, it hurts my heart a little bit. I mean, Link is a character that's just been struggling a lot in this game, even though I think very highly of him, and he has an insane tech ceiling. Realistically, he just doesn't really have any of the results to back it. I'm never going to stop on my Link propaganda, though. I will always be pushing that, because when a Link player does top 8 a major again, and it will happen again because the tech ceiling with this character is absolutely insane, I can say I all told you so, but until that happens, Link is a character that's been struggling a lot throughout kind of all of Smash Ultimate. B- tier, again, no real outliers here. I think characters we could see continue going up as Corrin. I feel like people are getting to discover how broken Corrin is in general. Donkey Kong, maybe as a secondary, could continue having success, but the rest of these characters I'd expect to stay in this tier. Maybe go up a tier, maybe go down a tier. In the B+ tier is where things get a little bit funky. You're going to have Sheik there. You're going to have Zero Suit there. I'd expect these characters to maybe be a little bit higher. And Pikachu is obviously the thorn in my side. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on it because this is a discussion that's happened 8,000 times over. But I think Pikachu, top 5 character in this game, just very underrepresented. We're starting to get some good results now. You have H4 doing well. Esam's doing better. Again, he switched to Bosch controller, so obviously it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment period. Shiny Mark has been absolutely farming, but throughout the entirety of Smash Ultimate, this character has definitely been lacking in the results. So while it doesn't sit right with me that Pikachu is this low, I can definitely see the reasoning behind it. A- tier, all of these characters make sense. I mean, Violet, I'd expect maybe to be a little bit higher just because MKLeo is absolutely ridiculous. Rosalini being this high is absolutely crazy. You can thank DeBuzz for that. Also, shout out to DeBuzz for carrying his character more than MKLeo was able to carry his character. And everything else in the A- tier does make sense. I mean, I would expect characters like Terry, Sora, Pokemon Trainer just to be a little bit higher because I think very highly of them on the tier list, but they're also characters that don't have a ton of top reps, so I can't understand why they are going to be lower. In the A+ tier, I think the biggest shock definitely has to be Luigi being this high. You also have Falcon and Ness sneaking up there again, though not as high on the last list, so it does make a lot more sense. But Luigi, that is an extremely volatile character, but also a character that's had some pretty insane peaks, so I can understand why he's up there. Falco as well, another character that's had some very nice peaks. I mean, if you're going to be in this A+, tier, obviously you're going to have a player that is at least taking you to like top 3 or top 8 at the very worst in a tournament. In the S- tier, I think the biggest exception there would maybe be Bayonetta, not because I think Bayonetta isn't among these characters, but I would just expect her to be towards the lower end. But the Bayo players have been doing absolutely incredible, so honestly, this is a number that's probably just going to improve. I think everything Bayo-wise is going to improve, if you couldn't tell. Rest of the characters in the S- make a ton of sense. Maybe I would expect Joker to be a little bit bit higher. In the S tier as well, literally cookie cutter, these are your best characters in the game. You got Fox up there, Snake up there, Game Watch up there, Kazuya, Samus. These are just the characters that are going to make sense. You're also going to have very popular reps playing these characters and getting them some of their good results. You're going to have Tweak for that one, top 5 player in the world. You're going to have Spargo for that one, top 5 player in the world. You're going to have Mia there. You're going to have Light there. It makes sense that these characters are so high. And finally, you're going to have that S plus tier, and there's also a fairly significant gap between Game Watch and Aegis. It's going to be by 4 points, and these are, again, characters that have had representation within the top 10. Most of them have had representation within the top 5, and they're also just characters that are heavily represented in the top 50, in the top 200. They're just very popular characters that have some incredible results because you got amazing players behind them. I mean, for Aegis, you got Shuton, MK Leo, Spargo. Those are all players that are going to be within the top 10. Rob, you're only going to have Zomba kind of reaching that top 10 caliber, but you're going to have Anathema, you're going to have MK Big Boss. There's a bunch of incredible Rob players out there, and there's going to be a significant gap between Rob and Sonic. Sonic being at number 2, the definitive number 2. I mean, no quarrels there. He is the second best character in the game. You have Sonic being a top rep. You have Ken, you have Takai, you have Pele, you have Wrath. There are so many amazing Sonic players. And our number 1 being Steve is a surprise to literally no one. I mean, the best player in the world is going to be playing him, so he's going to have a lot of very, very strong results from that. But you're also just going to have a bunch of top C reps. You're going to have Onin, you're going to have D-Dog, you're going to have Yamanaksha. There's just so many amazing C players. You could go on and on. So everyone in the S plus tier, no real surprises there. And the final list that we're going to be taking a look at, as well as the list that I personally am the most excited for, is going to be the most influential player of every single character. Now, again, this is from 2021, way back in December, so this isn't going to be the best reps of a character right now, but we do get to see the best reps pretty much in the post-quarantine era. And you also get to see which characters have been carried the hardest. I mean, you look at the zeros, you're going to have Major, Aaron, and Toriguri, as well as Spargo all being at the 0 rep. So that means without these players, these characters wouldn't move up or down at all on the tiers. And for Toriguri, Major, and Aaron, obviously no disrespect to them, but these characters just don't get a lot of representation at the top of. They don't really have any results to improve from or go down upon. So it makes sense why they're at 0. And then Spargo, I mean, Aegis, just a very, very popular character at the top of. For Palutena, you're going to have Luis. And while Luis isn't the best Palu right now, if you're looking at the post-quarantine results, especially within 2022, I mean, he was getting some incredible numbers, and he's still getting really good numbers in 2023, though not on the level of Chase and Jagaimo anymore. I think saying he is the best Palu in the post-quarantine era is definitely a fair statement. Aqua being the best Steve as well, I mean, makes a ton of sense. Even though he's had insane reps, even without him, it would only go down by 1. So again, Steve, very popular character at the top of it, even without their best rep. It does make sense. You're going to have John Numbers putting up absolute numbers for Wii Fit. Ouch as well being the best Wolf. Wolf, a very popular character at the top level. Ned actually going to be the most influential Sephiroth, which is pretty interesting. I mean, considering that Ken and Tweak have definitely had further placements in the tournament, but Ned has still been a very consistent player, at least in 2022. He was getting a lot more good results. 2023, not as much so, though he definitely still has some nice placements at the regional level. He's also been picking up PT a little bit more, so there's going to be that transition period there. But shouts to Ned for getting the most Sephiroth results because that character is still fairly popular at the top level, even though I think he's bad. And from Greninja to Rob, all these characters are just the present-day best reps of their main, so it makes a lot of sense that they're going to be on this list. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that Peanut isn't carrying Little Mac harder because he's got some insane results with this character, but shout out to the Little Mac mates because you guys are actually getting some pretty decent results. You're going to see Rob not being influenced that much by Zomba, even though he's had some amazing stats. And again, it makes sense. Rob, very popular character at the top level. Same thing with Snake and Apollo Kage. Also, shout out to Apollo Kage for having the most representation, even though he wasn't the highest ranked on the Lumen rank. He was going to have that title taken away from Dio, so technically not the best Snake in the world right now, but he has been putting in absolute numbers with the character, so it definitely makes sense why he is the best Snake. Overall, you're going to have Sumo Suto for Dr. Mario. Makes a ton of sense. I mean, he's the only player that's been able to take this character to top 8 at a major, which is absolutely crazy that he did that. Zachary for Pit. I mean, this character, honestly, I'm pretty shocked that it's this low because Zachary, again, the only player that can take Pit into the top 3 of a super major event multiple times, but only by 7 points. So shouts to the Pit players. Y'all are actually getting some pretty nasty results. Quid, despite not playing Pokemon Trainer enough, I mean, just not playing enough this game, he is still going to be the best replica character by a long shot. It is only by 7, but still, he's going to be putting in a lot of numbers there. And it makes sense because he is absolutely ridiculous with this character. Like, definitely the best rep. If we saw more of him, it would probably be way, way higher up on the list. At 42, you're going to have Inkling. And honestly, I would have expected this character a little bit earlier on in the list just because I think that Showers and Space have also been getting some pretty insane results as of late. But to be fair, most of that is more recent times. Shiryuki was doing very well in both 2022 and 2023. So I definitely understand why he's the top rep by by a significant margin. I wouldn't have expected that. You're going to have Bloom Forever as well, being the best Bayo player by a whole 10 slots. I mean, obviously that's not how the metric works, but you do get what I'm saying there. And even though Bayonetta players have definitely been doing very well as of late, Bloom Forever is undoubtedly still the best rep of the character. He just doesn't really get a chance to prove himself too often, at least when you're not watching the European scene. Mezcal going to be absolutely carrying those Ridley results. Cola as well, the best Roy by far, and that does make a lot of sense because he's definitely the peak Roy. You're going to have Proto Bonham on this list for 2 characters, which is pretty crazy. I believe him and MKLeo are actually the only people that managed to get on this list twice, so big shouts to them for that. You're going to have Tilde at the number 1 Falco. Makes a lot of sense. Mars as the number 1 Zero Suit also makes a lot of sense. I don't think anyone's ever going to take that title. T3 Dom and Armadillo absolutely carrying their low tier characters. I mean, these guys have some pretty incredible results, especially Armadillo in 2023. I mean, that run at Battle of the Sea was absolutely unreal. Jogabu taking that title of Best Falcon. There's been a lot of good Falcon players throughout Smash Ultimate, especially within that post-quarantine era. I mean, you're going to have Sean, you're going to have Fatality, you're going to have Karage, you're going to have Andric, but Jogabu is leading the charge by a fairly significant margin. Karama at 12, I mean, this makes a lot of sense. Siski at 12, a little bit surprised there just because I would expect Yara to be catching up, but to be fair, Yara is way more of a 2023 thing, and in 2022, Siski was absolutely dominating with his character. Mia leading by 13 points. I mean, he did take that title of the best game watch in 2022, so Meister was definitely putting in work there, but Mia, the result that he's been getting as late, I mean, it makes a lot of sense why he is so high on this list because that guy is extremely good. Yoda Cage has been grinding with Bowser Jr. I mean, this guy has some very impressive wins as well. I think it's pretty obvious to say that he is the best Bowser Jr. in the world right now, even though TM7 Zap has also been getting some very nice results. I mean, a Riddles win is going to throw you into consideration for sure, but I'm pretty confident giving that to Yoda Cage, especially after seeing that list. The 14 diff there is going to be by a fairly large margin. Nader Yu as well putting up results in Europe. I think when the players are on this list from Europe, it's especially impressive because, I mean, Mezcal, Bloom Forever, Nader Yu, they don't get too many chances to prove themselves, so when they are seizing these opportunities and getting some pretty nuts placements. Kome being the best Shulk by a significant margin, I feel like that's always going to be like that. Gact at 16 as well. This one's honestly pretty shocking to me because Ness, very popular character on the top level, and you've had a lot of very good Ness players. I mean, Syrup is amazing, Send is amazing, but Gact is definitely the best Ness, but I didn't expect it to be by so wide of a margin. And this is the point in the list where we're just getting the players that are ranked top 10. You're going to have Tweak as the number 1 Diddy Kong. There's a bunch of very good Diddy Kong players, but none of them are ranked in the top 10. So Tweak, he's going to be up there. Same thing for Riddles. Same thing for T. Big D, I mean, he puts that character on his shoulder. Some of the run that Big D has are phenomenal, and literally no one else can do them. And there are other good Ice Climber players. Don't get me wrong. Fuda's really good, Harrison's really good, but Big D, I mean, he clearly takes the cake. Same thing for Riddles as well. Base Mage though leading by 20 points, which is pretty crazy. Now, Jigglypuff, not a very common character at the top level, and Base Mage has some pretty unreal results, but by 20 points, I mean, that's pretty massive. For Mudace as well. Now, Peach, a character that's a little bit more represented at the top level, an absolutely broken character, but Mudace, I mean, he is leading the charge. Honestly, I'm pretty surprised just because Umeki exists, and he's also got some fairly insane results, but I mean, Mudace's peaks are pretty much unrivaled. He's got some insane stuff. Kameme at 20 as well. This one is no surprise. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked to see this one a little bit higher. Kameme is putting Sora on his back right now. I think that's going to change because Sora is a very good character that just takes time to figure out, but as of right now, Kameme is the only one making waves with this character, but there are other Sora players that I could see getting results in the near future. Sonics as well. I mean, Sonics, he is clearly the best rep of Sonic. I mean, he just does everything the best. Absolutely insane with this character, and he's also a top 5 player in the world, so his good results are going to make sense. At number 9, you're going to have Yoshidora with a difference of 24. I don't know why I started saying points midway through the video, but it is a difference here of how much they would differ on the tiers. And Yoshidora being the top rep of his character by a significant amount, I don't think is really surprising to anyone. Same thing with MKLeo, same thing with Capitancito, same thing with Skyjay. These guys are all carrying their reps at the top level. Now, Yoshidora, I think Meme is actually a player that if he got to go to more tournaments, this gap wouldn't be as big, but unfortunately, Meme does not get the chance to go to more tournaments, so Yoshidora is going to be dominant with his character. MKLeo, I mean, top 10 player in the world with Byleth. There's no other Byleth players that are getting results of the leagues. I mean, Ridley also actually has some pretty nice stuff, but he's also playing like 10 characters at the top level, so all those points can't just be going to Byleth. Capitancito is pretty much the only top me gunner player that is actually getting results. Skyjay as well, the only Incineroar player that is getting results. Now, Osimo, not the only Ryu player, and maybe Icon can make this gap a little bit smaller, but top 15 in the world and has some absolutely ludicrous results with Ryu. And then we're going to have Spargo at 4th, pretty much the only cloud at the super top level, and there's a lot of very good clouds. I think Enhanced PV could get to the super top level. I think Yoshi could get to the super top level, but Spargo is a top 2 player in the world with multiple pizza wins, multiple super major wins, so him having a large diff makes a ton of sense. And we have our top 3. DeBuzz gonna be at number 3. Makes total sense. I mean, the fact that he was able to take a mid-tier, and I say that with my chest, a mid-tier character to top 2 at SmashCon is unreal. He is by far the best Rosalina player in the world. 830 diff makes a ton of sense. Glutzy as well, definitely the best warrior rep. I mean, he has been from the start, and the stuff that he's able to do with this character is stuff that literally no one else can do. I mean, that comeback versus Ken, for example, even though it's Ken definitely choking that, the fact that Glutzy was able to pull it off because he played perfectly, by the way, is just phenomenal. He is definitely the best warrior rep. I don't think that's going to change, but he's not the rep that carries the character the most. That is going to be Light, who has a difference of 34. There's some good Fox players out there, don't get me wrong. Saruman's really good, Kananabe is really good, Comet's really good, but Light is definitely the best Fox player in the world. He has some ridiculous results. The only player that is able to consistently get his character into the top 8 and him having a diff of 34, I mean, it is absolutely insane, and I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Again, huge shout out to SCHU Stats for making all this stuff. We only took a look at 3 of the list that he made, and he made 8 of them. And if there's anything that I poorly explained in the video, and there probably was, you could just go take a look at the link down below, because everything is explained in a ton of detail on this little website right here, and it's just very cool. Highly recommend that you do give it a look. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys for watching. The sport has been absolutely real. If there's anything that I got wrong in the video or anything that you're just curious about, please let me know down below. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.